I call to order the Rosemont Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, January 28th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
There are no additions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any input from the audience on items that are not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. Our consent agenda this evening includes our minutes from our December 16th regular meeting. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one item under old business this evening. It is a request by Danner Inc. for renewal of its small-scale mineral extraction permit for 25 and 26. This item is set to be continued. Julie, is there anything you want to say before we move forward?
Yes, we are working with the applicant. They are getting their testing done this week, and they did say they will have that submitted for the February Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. With that, I will make a motion to continue the public hearing for the Danner Inc. application to the Planning Commission meeting on February 25th, 2025, so the applicant can provide the city the results on the hallback testing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will move forward to our public hearing section this evening. We have 3 public hearings before us tonight. The first public hearing is a request by Greg Steininger for a renewal of a small-scale mineral extraction permit for 25 and 26. And I will turn it over to Liz.
Okay. The Planning Commission is being asked to consider a request to renew the small-scale mineral extraction permit for Max Steininger for the years 2025 and 2026. As far as the site update, about 60,000 tons of material were extracted from the site in 2024, and no haulback material was brought into the site in 2024. Mining will continue on the eastern portion of the site with Phase 1 as shown in the site plan, which I'll pull up in just a minute. In 2025, the applicant is expecting to extract approximately 50,000 tons from Phase 1. So shown in red is the site location. The mineral extraction site is located south of 145th Street, east of State Highway 52. The site is 79 acres with a mining area of 37 acres. These are just some aerial photos showing August 2023 and October 2024. You can see the main access road is coming off of 145th Street East. Their mining phases will eventually move further west throughout the site. And this is the applicant's submitted site plan. They are still in Phase 1 over here. They will not begin mining in Phase 2 until at least 70% of Phase 1 has been reclaimed. Here are a few site photos. As part of the annual review for the extraction permit, staff consulted the police department, and there were no records of any incidents reported to the police. A couple more site photos. So in front of the commission, there is a motion to recommend the city council approve Max Steininger's small-scale mineral extraction permit for 2025 and 2026, subject to the terms and conditions in the attached draft conditions for mineral extraction. And I can answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you, Liz. Are there any questions for Liz from the commission? Sounds good. Thank you. This item is a public hearing item. At this time, we will open up the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on this item may do so at this time, coming to the podium, stating your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Ellis. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Any final comments or questions on this mineral extraction before we proceed? Okay. Motion?
Sure. I will make a motion to recommend the City Council approve the Max Steininger Incorporated Small-Scale Mineral Extraction Permit for 2025 and 2026, subject to the terms and conditions in the attached draft conditions for mineral extraction.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reed, seconded by Commissioner Bugai. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our public hearing agenda this evening is a request by Magellan Land Development for approval and rezoning of land from A2 agricultural to R2 low to medium density residential and a preliminary plat to develop 58 townhome units. And Julia, I will turn it over to you.
All right, so a little overview of the project. So the applicant is requesting a rezone and preliminary plat approval to develop 58 townhome units on a 10-acre site located east of Akron Avenue and north of Bon Air Path. The applicant is requesting that site be rezoned from A2 agricultural to R2 low to medium density residential. So an overview of the site location. So the site is located directly east of Akron Avenue and north, about a half-mile north of Bon Air Path. You can see to the west there is Caremore Crossing development, as well as north of that Meadow Ridge. Also north of the site and also east of the site is land owned by Flint Hills Resources. And then the city's Flint Hills Recreation Complex is located to the south. So overview of the rezoning requests. So the applicant is requesting that site be rezoned from A2 to R2. So the R2 zoning district is an allowed secondary zoning district under the low density residential land use designation, which this property is designated for. So you can see that on these visuals, the future land use designation is shown as low density residential as well as the property to the west and also the property to the south. And you can see currently that property is zoned A2 agricultural, along with the properties to the north, south, and east as well. The LDR land use designation allows for housing density for up to 6 units per acre, and this development is meeting that 6 units per acre as well. So a little overview of the site plan. So the site is 10 acres in size, and again, the proposed density for the site is 6 units per acre. There are 58 townhome units proposed throughout the site with a mixture of 4 to 6 units per building, with a total of 12 buildings throughout the site. The site will be accessed by a single public street that extends east and south off of Akron Avenue. You can see that in the site plan on the right-hand side. You can see that it curves south. There is a private road shown to extend east off the access road, which you can see extends and ends in a cul-de-sac at the end towards the stormwater ponding on the east side of the site. There are also 3 private drives that extend south off the main private road that gives access to a few of those townhome buildings. There are 2 stormwater management areas shown, again, on the easternmost portion of the site and as well as on the southeast end of the site as well. The first phase of development will consist of the public access road as well as the main private road, both stormwater ponding areas, and then 30 townhome units. The second phase will be the remaining 28 townhome units and also the 3 private drives that extend south off the main private road. A little more overview of the streets and access. Like I had stated, that main road off of Akron Avenue will be public access road. That public street will be maintained by the developer, though, until development occurs to the south, which at that point, it would transition to a publicly maintained road. Also shown throughout the site is 29 guest parking stalls, which you can see will be located on the south side of that private drive area, and also right east of that public street. The 29 guest parking stalls does meet that off-street parking requirement for townhome developments. Also shown are 5-foot sidewalks throughout the site. You can see on the southern portion of that private drive there will be a sidewalk, and as well as on the south side of that curve on the public street as well. A little overview on the landscaping and parks and open space. So the Parks and Recreation Department reviewed the plans for the project and is recommending that an 8-foot wide trail be benched in the west side of the development along Akron Avenue. You can see that on this landscape plan to the west. They are requesting that. And then also the city is not looking to acquire parkland and therefore are requesting cash in lieu of park dedication. That is $165,300 that is required as a condition of approval. A little overview of the landscape plan. So the landscape plan shows a total of 226 trees planted throughout the site. Some existing trees that are located on the western portion of the site do need to be removed to accommodate the development, but the caliper inches that need to be replaced is being met as per the landscape plan. So you can see that trees are shown to be located throughout the whole site, mostly along the buffers of the property boundaries. So to the south, pretty heavy on the northern property boundary and as well as along the western property boundary. Trees cannot be planted around the stormwater ponding area due to transmission lines throughout that end of the site. Also a landscape surety in the amount of $74,580 will be required as a condition of approval as well. A few architectural renderings that show the type of townhomes that will be put throughout the site. So here are two of the models that are proposed, and then also an additional two that are proposed throughout the area as well. Before I get to the recommendation part, did want to also mention that the developer did hold a neighborhood meeting for this project on Wednesday, January 15th at Fire Station 2 within the city, and that was held between 5 and 7 p.m., and we had 2 residents show up to that neighborhood meeting. Also, we did have a public comment letter that was distributed to the commission. Otherwise, that was the only public comment that was received, as well as another phone call from a resident as well. There are 2 motions in front of the commission today, though. First motion will be to recommend the city council approve a zoning map amendment to rezone the site from A2 agricultural to R2 low to medium density residential. And then the second one is to motion to recommend the city council approve the preliminary plat for Akron Ridge subject to conditions A through H. I can answer any questions the commission may have, but also I do know the developer is here as well if there are additional questions that are posed for them.
Thank you, Julia. Are there any questions for Julia at this time?
We have a couple. Julia, can you remind me, there was right in this area, a land swap when we did the public works. Is that just north of this? Is that where?
Yes, that area north up here was that land swap with Flint Hills Resources and the state of Minnesota.
Okay, so is it the Army Reserves that owns that, or?
Sorry,
Correct.
what was?
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Reed, so the land directly to the north of that parcel, yes, that was the land exchange between Flint Hills and the city that led to the construction of the Police and Public Works campus off of Biscayne, so that is owned by the Minnesota National Guard.
And that would not be built then, that needs to be preserved for their use, correct?
That parcel that the state owns, it's for their use in the future.
And then, I'm just trying to get context, kind of north and south here. And then south of it, there's a single-family home there. And the plan shows that public road kind of ending. Is there an assumption that there's going to be building and that public street would continue? I know it's speculation, but is that kind of the speculation why that's designed that way?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it in the packet, but are these purchased or rental?
The developer can speak on that, but from conversations that we've had, to my knowledge, M and I will be constructing this, and it will be for purchase.
Okay.
Townhomes, yes.
Thank you.
With lots of development off of Akron, is there plans in the future to pave the north part of that road?
Akron Avenue is a county road, so ultimately it is up to them on that. I guess I don't have for certain when that would be, if they do plan on paving that, but it is a county road, so it's up to the county's jurisdiction.
Julia, this might be too much speculation at this time, too, with the property to the south not knowing what's going to happen, but if, right now, there's an entrance that will be used for that north, for the townhomes with that public road, so then do we think we would get rid of that, the driveway right now for that south end, that south property would likely go away, so we just have the one curb cut off Akron into this neighborhood?
I know Dakota County is working with the developer on this. There are plans to put in a turn lane to access this main road, but I guess it will depend on when development comes for that property to the south and what that looks like
All right,
for that access, at least to that area.
Okay.
Kind of what I was thinking is that perhaps the one curb cut for this, and then wouldn't do another one if they did the development south there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Madam Chair, the purpose of the public road on the site plan is to provide access to the south. If it were to develop, then that would be the access into that southern parcel. Our conversations with the county did not lead us to believe that they would require removal of that single-family home to the south of their access at this time.
Right, right. But if they sell and that whole thing develops into,
It would be one single access, correct?
would be, yes, yes, nothing right now, obviously.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Julia at this time? Julia, just to clarify one thing before you step away. So when you had the zoning and map up, so the future land use, that is from the comp plan,
Correct.
and it's guided low-density residential, which includes our R1 and our R2.
Correct,
zoning.
yep.
So
So
this-
the R1 is an allowed zoning in the low-density residential land use designation, and then the R2, which this is being proposed as, is a secondary zoning. So both the R1 and R2 are allowed zoning districts within that
Within that.
land
So-
use designation,
So
correct?
it's following the comp plan guide.
Yes.
With that change. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Julia. This item is a public hearing item, so at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak may do so at this time, coming to the podium, stating your name and address for the record.
Jason Palmby, the applicant, 7129 Heatherton Trail. I'm just here to, Julie, you did a wonderful job with the introduction of the development. I also have with me a representative from MI Homes who will be building the townhome, so they can speak to price points, et cetera on that. There was some discussion around access to this site, and I've had some extensive discussions with Dakota County, and these are my words, not their words. Less is best. Less access is best. And so in designing this, not knowing what the neighbor to the south would do, as more of a courtesy to help, if something were to happen, they would like to see that driveway go away in one access point. So this is just a confirmation to the discussions that I've had with Dakota County on that. I'm going to step back. If you do have questions as this evolves, I'm here to answer any questions that you do have.
Sounds good, Jason. Thank you. We would probably love to hear about the price points from M&I Homes if they'd like to cover that.
Hi, I'm Emily Becker with MI Homes, 5354 Parkdale Drive, Suite 100, St. Louis Park, 55416. So the price point is going to be in the high threes, starting probably at like $385, going up to about $425, again, depending on a lot of factors, whether it's an end unit, mid unit, and then sort of amenities that are selected throughout the process. They are designed to look more like single-family homes. They're about 29 feet in height, so around the same height as a single-family home would be. And yeah, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sounds good. Any other questions, or Commissioner Rivera, I know you'd asked about if they were sale or.
No, I
rent,
just,
any other-
yeah, I always want to know if people are going to, what type of housing is going to be in the neighborhood, if it's for sale or for rent, so that answered my
For sale.
question.
Yep.
Thank you.
What kind of, I guess, feedback did you hear in that public meeting that you hosted?
Well, there's only two people, so one resident just wanted to know if it was going to be for sale or for rent or affordable housing. And then another just said that they would like to see single-family home in lieu of townhomes, but townhomes aren't allowed use in the zoning district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Greg and Beth Bergacker, 13080 Akron Avenue, the land just south of the proposed property.
Okay.
When we first built out there, we were told by the city of Rosemount that there was no smaller than 2.5 acres. So we bought out there believing that was going to be more of a rural setting. Well, I understand that progress comes, and with progress, we're going to have some more building. And I didn't mind the houses going across the street. But here they want to put 58 units on this 10 acres. Okay, that's going to open it up to all the, because we've got a very big wooded lot. It's going to open it up to all the little kids wanting to go out in the woods over there and build a tree fort. And I'm concerned, that's, I guess, my biggest concern, is what could happen with the people that are coming in there. Everybody wants to use our yard to cut across through. We hunt back there.
Used to.
We still do, but we put up trail cams. We got people walking through our yard all the time, all the time. When they put the park in south of us, they promised us, we're gonna put a fence up there so this can't happen. Well, that's where they're coming out of. They're coming out of the park and down into our yard because they see the woods. They think, cool, let's go for a nature walk. And I was promised that fence, and here it is. How long since the park been there? 5 years? We still don't have that fence you told us you're gonna put up. So that's another one of my concerns. I'm gonna get all these promises from these developers. Oh, no, it's not gonna have kids out there, and that's just what's gonna happen.
We even had somebody argue with my son-in-law who was out checking our cameras, and he said he had permission to be in our property, which was a bold-faced lie. I asked, was this a young kid? He goes, no, he was in his 50s, I would guess. So it's not just little kids wandering through our yard. So privacy fence from one end to the other end, even under the Highline wires, because we've seen people riding bikes down under the Highline wires, cutting through there, training their dogs. It's upsetting.
It's getting to be a runway, and I hate have something, happen, and then it'd be my responsibility because somebody got hurt on my property.
Yeah, and then they sue us. So that's our biggest concern, and we don't want to, I know there's HOAs out there that say no rental properties. We are requesting that clause get put in there. That's not going to turn into a whole bunch of rental townhouses. Somebody buys it and then hangs on to it for a while and then rents it out, and it turns into a junkyard. We've seen it. Everybody has seen that with rentals. So those are our two biggest things. And as far as the meeting with only 2 people showing up, we got the letter. It was postmarked the 10th. The meeting was the 15th. We were on vacation. That less than a 5-day notice isn't very thoughtful. Usually you have to give at least a 2-week notice for meetings, like you guys did for us for this meeting. So we would have been there, and we would have voiced all this stuff then also. So those are our 3 biggest concerns. And don't assume we're going to be selling. We're not.
Ain't happening.
We're not planning on developing our land.
I bought that 10 acres because we were gonna everybody's gonna have horse farm and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, the Met Council comes along and says, hey, that's not happening. We're putting single-family homes in there, 3 an acre. Well, that ain't so bad, but this is gonna be a lot more than 3 an acre.
So it's not medium, what we were told a few years back, that it would be 3 houses to an acre. Now it's 6 to an acre. So, yeah, we're a little disappointed of all the say one thing, do another.
I guess that's all I have to say.
And the developer did not reach out to us to see if we wanted to sell. I had told the neighbor that we had no desire to sell. So I don't know if he relayed that to the developer or not, but we have no intentions of selling to a developer.
Just
or
got it the way I
anybody.
want it.
Yeah, we're looking at retiring and enjoying our backyard. So that's our concerns. And I want to make sure that gets in the meeting minutes, that they will put a privacy fence in to keep people out of our yard.
Thank you.
Yep.
Danielle Kent, 12870 Amiens Ave. So my property is just kitty corner of the top right corner. We back up to that area. So I just had a couple questions. First of all, in regards to the meeting where there were only 2 residents, we did not receive the letter, and whether this is on us not getting our mail the same day or whether it was a postage thing. We didn't receive the letter until after the meeting occurred, when we received the letter about this meeting. So we were not able to attend. I just had a question on the traffic flow that is going through here. Obviously, with the D.R. Horton neighborhood, it's become even more busy. And I think you mentioned there aren't plans to have a turn lane in going into this area or this new development. And just being in our backyard, we've observed multiple times near car accidents, near misses. So with another development, 58 homes, are there plans for additional safety measures, additional changes to the roadway? Wondering if there's any additional information on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll take all the comments and then we'll respond to them at the end.
Okay,
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience would like to speak on this item tonight? Okay. I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. So Julie, I think we might have to have the developer answer some of these questions, but if you maybe want to start with the traffic flow.
Yeah, so
You can,
Dakota County did put in a requirement with their approval that a turn lane would need to be put in to access this site. But Akron Avenue is a major county road, and the county does look into those traffic volumes and had no issues with this development occurring with the traffic volumes on Akron. They did not raise any concerns, at least at that Plat Commission meeting that the city had with the county and the developer, so.
And so will it be out, like if you're traveling south on Akron, it'll be a turn lane turning left in?
It'll be turning right in.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
there's already a center turn
There's
lane.
already a
Yeah,
center turn lane.
it's
Okay, thank
turning
you.
right in when you're coming north on Akron Avenue.
Going north,
Yes.
turning right,
Yes.
which is consistent with all the other developments up and down there, right?
Okay.
I had something. So you mentioned that there was a request to have a trail put in. Would that trail at this point just terminate at the end of that property line?
Yeah, it would just be benched in for when development would occur south. That's when the city would take fee in lieu of that from the developer as well. So it'd be benched in right away, but then to finish it down the line, when development would occur south, that is when that trail would go in fully.
Okay.
And we heard from those property owners that they don't plan to sell anytime soon, so it could sit there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years,
Depending.
like that, yep. Correct. Okay, and then I don't know if you would have any knowledge on this, but the park to the south of Greg and Beth's property, and they mentioned a fence. Are you familiar with that fence at all?
I did talk with our Parks and Rec director, and I know that a fence was wanted there, but technically when that park went in, a fence was not required, so the city did not put a fence in for that. I guess I don't have as much context to that as our Parks and Rec director does on that, as he
Okay.
was the main project manager on that project, but I know that there was discussions of that back when it was developed.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we can follow up with Dan Schultz, the city's Parks and Recreation
Okay.
Director.
And with the residents that,
Correct,
Yep.
yep.
With them,
We
thank
can
you.
have them connect on that issue.
on that issue, thank
Yes.
you. And then I think these are probably for the applicant around the HOA and the rental,
Yeah, I
Yes.
would defer to the applicant on that, so,
and then a fence from their side of the property.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so to address some of the concerns with the fence, so I do think that there is pretty definitive landscaping on the southern side of the site that kind of, I don't know, Julia, if you can.
Go the other way.
Oh,
One more. There you go.
okay. I think that kind of delineates, where the property ends. We can also include something in the disclosures that kind of says like where this ends and where the woods begins. That's where you need to stay. And I think that, it would be awkward for someone to go to the park through the woods. So I do think that the landscaping does address that boundary. In terms of concerns about not maintaining the yard, we do have HOA restrictions that don't allow outdoor storage, requires that, you park your cars inside of the garage, doesn't allow recreational vehicles outside, and the HOA will be maintaining the outlot on which the townhomes sit, and then they also will take care of snow removal, lawn care, all of that, and then Julia had addressed the turn lane.
Okay. So the HOA doesn't necessarily preclude somebody from renting their unit, but the HOA does have regulations around outdoor storage and maintenance and all of that to keep the
Correct.
The grounds
Yes.
looking
Yes. To be
well
clear,
kept.
right now, we do allow rentals. It's not very common. I'm going to tell you that it's very, very, very irregular for someone to purchase one of our units and rent it out. It's usually only under extenuating circumstances. They need to move or things of that nature. But I do feel that we have a lot of restrictions in place that will help kind of regulate any sort of the effects that usually comes from renting.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have follow-up questions for the applicant?
Well, just to be clear, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the landscaping, feeling it's sufficient. Is putting any kind of fence there out of the question, or is that something that would be entertained?
I mean, I don't think it's out of the question. I think it would be difficult with the landscaping that's there. I don't know how we would get all those trees on there and a fence, to be honest.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reed, it is very rare. I can't think of a single situation where we have required a fence between two residential uses. Typically, if there is that requirement on the city's part, it's between differing uses, like commercial adjacent to residential. But I can't think of a single project where we've required a fence between two residential uses.
Yeah, Commissioner Whitman, yes.
Although, isn't this kind of unique where we have a park on one side, you've got this single-family residence and this individual property sandwiched, by this multifamily property. So it does seem like maybe there'd be more likelihood of people walking through those woods or through that property to get to that park. And just some signs or some awareness, general awareness, I'm not sure is going to prevent that. So, I mean, the idea of a fence sound, if possible, I understand you got to put trees in there too, but if it's possible, feasible to do it, it seems like necessary almost in this situation.
Right, especially if there's hunting going on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
Right.
And the property south there, is that zoned agricultural though still? Okay, so it's not quite the same as residential against residential. Well, it is a unique situation here. I'm curious if the fence on the park side, if that was to be put in, if that would prevent traffic. It wouldn't prevent traffic on the north side, but it would prevent the likelihood of somebody knowing that they can go all the way
Cutting
through.
through.
Right.
They won't be able to cut through.
Prevent the through traffic. Yeah.
Right, right. Do we know if the fence was in the plan for the Flint Hills Park and it is the approved plan?
That I don't know. I have to check on
Okay.
I was kind of thinking the same lines as I was hearing about the owner of the south and the cutting through. I mean, if I'm looking at the layout and I'm on the far, what is that, east, like one of those units, it would, and know that there's a park right directly south, like people would naturally just want to just cut through, even if it is through the woods. So to me, I would entertain adding a condition to require a fence, whether it be for this property to have the fence, or whether we want to talk to Parks and Rec to see if they'll add the fence on the other end of it. But that's kind of where I'm at.
And do you feel the fence just runs with the south property line?
Probably up to where that public road is.
And then all the way back to
Yeah.
all the way to the east? Like, I'm just trying to think of At what point can they just go around the fence, right? Like,
Is there a satellite view we can bring up here that shows more clearly?
you can put a fence up, but if they can get
Right.
around it on the sides, then it's not doing any, it's not serving its purpose to. Is there sidewalk all the way along there too?
There is, I don't think there is sidewalk, right?
On the east-hand side, there's not.
There's no sidewalk on the east, right?
No, there is a portion, though, if you look down on Flint Hills Complex, all the way south, there is that trail that goes that way, but nothing
So if people,
along the
like,
western side.
so if people from the townhome complex wanted to walk down to the park, they would cross the street and then take sidewalk down and then cross the street back?
Yes.
I think it's almost inviting people to
Right.
trespass across that property without easy access. And especially, and with that road that stubs down, if there's no further planned growth, you're inviting more people. I don't know if that road is necessary to have there, but if there's no plan to sell that property to the south, is that little stub of a road necessary?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, why, if the property owners clearly stated they're not interested in selling anytime soon, so why are we putting that in there, I guess?
Is that stub of road, though, in front of some of the units, so it would be needed regardless? for
It's
the
required by,
driveway?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, that's required by the county as part of their plat approval process. They're not going to waiver on that requirement.
Is there an easement on the southern property with the residents that a sidewalk could be put in on that, do I be on the east side of Akron going north-south?
Not to my knowledge, not as of now.
So we don't have,
So we have no sidewalk options to,
That's where I was thinking, best solution might be, the owner of the south might not be able to change the outcome of necessarily controlling what happens north of the property, but you could maybe get a trail all the way through that kind of controls it altogether. So you build out the trail, and then the current property that we're talking about, plus the owner to the south agrees to the trail coming through, and then you've got control.
there's a connection, and people probably
Yeah.
would rather walk the trail than walk through
Right.
woods anyways.
I have a question too on that. I don't recall the whole thing, but I know the city owns the park, correct? The land was donated by Flint Hills,
Correct.
but the city owns the park. And so there's not a sidewalk adjacent on Akron all along the side of where the park is?
No.
There's no sidewalk, but this is the new school that's being built down here?
To the southeast.
Okay,
Or
so-
southwest of.
Okay,
the
so that's going to
complex,
get a
yeah.
lot of traffic probably too. I'm with you guys, trying to understand the logistics. So there's no sidewalk on the park side on Akron?
Correct. At least north of that middle half.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
it would be helpful, a couple of options to consider as the Planning Commission is weighing the recommendations before you. Because this is not proposed as a planned unit development, it's a bit more difficult to leverage conditions on the approval where your purview is to review the plans submitted against the city code and to be in conformance with that, and then make a determination or recommendation to council from there. One option you would have, if in understanding and hearing the residents and some of the others' concern and questions about access between the two parcels and impacting the park, you would have the option to continue the item if there is additional solutions that the developer may be able to work with either the adjacent property or the city or the Parks Department that could potentially solve or make that less of an issue for the parties concerned. Or you could just make a recommendation based on staff's direction in either way.
Okay. Thank you, Adam, for clearing that up. I appreciate you bringing us back to that. I personally think it would be nice to find some sort of solution for people to walk to and from the park that isn't cutting through the yard. I just pulled up the Google aerials. We can see it a little bit here, but it is very, very wooded there, and I think if we gave people a trail or a sidewalk, they would be much more likely to take that versus going through the woods. Might not prevent everything, but give something. As Adam mentioned, our purview tonight, because it's not a PUD, we are limited on our conditions. I can't get the motion back in front of us. So we could continue this and ask the developer to work with the city to see what could be done, or we can consider the two motions before us.
I'd be in favor of continuing this, because I do think that some discussions might come up with some creative ways to solve for this, because it's really not well-designed right now.
I agree. I'd be in more continuing.
So
Yes, Commissioner Ellis?
if, let's say, they go forward and people aren't able to agree, the proposal, we haven't heard anything that says that the proposal doesn't meet the zoning requirements.
Correct.
So we would be essentially asking everyone to go back and try to work with one another and come up with a plan that works in advance. But if they came back in February or March and said we were unable to, this is something that we would be bound to approve.
As long as it meets our requirements.
As long as it meets, as long as we believe that it meets the zoning requirements. So we're just asking people to kind of go back and work in good faith with one another. Yeah, I'm just making sure that, 'cause,
Yep.
you know, this is the first time that I've experienced this when I've been on the
Nope, that
commission.
is
I just
true.
want to make sure that I understand where we stand.
Yeah, another option is that we could vote on our motion, these motions tonight, if they meet our zoning requirements, and ask the developer work with the city and the resident to see what they could come up with ahead of the city council meeting and work towards that, because as Commissioner Ellis said, if this does meet our requirements, we are somewhat bound. It's not a PUD like we're used to. So we could ask that it is the recommendation of the planning commission that they work together to come up with a solution. But seeing that they do meet our the requirements of the city, we do have little authority there. Because we can't really put a condition in that is, correct, Adam?
Maybe Commissioner Whitman could
Well,
provide
I
his
was
comments
just,
first.
I was just going to, I'm not, I mean, I agree with the general principle that if the requirements of the zoning code are met, then we have more limited options of applying conditions, but that's just, but I think it's more than just saying that the development meets the requirements of the land use designation and comprehensive plan, because we do have some potential issues of safety. We have some things that, you know, are kind of, that weren't in the report, that maybe we can apply some conditions. We also heard about potentially there were, whether true or not, some promises made or something about a fence. Maybe there is something in the past that there's a requirement for a fence. So I think there's some things that need to be looked at a little more before we just flat out say, we're unable to condition, and if we're going to send you forth, and I hope you make a deal, but if you don't go back, we're going to approve it. You know, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Adam, is it the case that we could approve the rezoning, but then defer the decision on the preliminary plat?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reed, you could. I probably would not advise that, as the development should typically be considered in the proposals in its entirety. You could, but I wouldn't recommend bifurcating those two actions.
Jason, I see you came back to the podium.
You had basically taken the words out of my mouth with what you were laying out, and that was, it's clear there's some components that there's a number of question marks that need to be worked through. And what I would suggest is that we can, if you were to move this forward or vote on it, we could concurrently work with staff and work with the neighbor to come up with some sort of solution as we continue to shepherd it through the approval process or lack thereof. Because I think there's some options, we need to understand the underlying, there's some other things that were out there that I didn't know anything about, a fence to the south on the Flint Hills portion. I don't have any answers for it. And That all being said, if you do choose to table it, what direction, what would you like to see done? I guess is the...
Yeah, great question. So if we were to table it, we would provide the direction. I think what you've heard from the commission tonight is that we would like something, we would like solutions to be reviewed in terms of a fence or something from a safety and a connection point to get people, you know, so that the residents and others can get to the park and not be cutting through that land. So they're gonna have they're gonna live in the townhomes, and then to get to the park, they don't have any sidewalk trail, they don't have anything to get down to the park right now, so then they would end up cutting through the property that's straight to the south. So I think that's, one, the safety of a fence, or maybe, and a sidewalk or something that would take them down that route.
So am I hearing a fence and or some sort of pathway? Is that what I'm...
Well, I think,
Yeah, I think the pathway is the ideal situation. If there's a way
Yeah.
to build a path going north-south it'd be the east side of Akron there, from your development down, connecting to the park, that would keep people off of the neighbor's property, and it would be a safe way for people to walk through.
As I understand it with the county, that's driven by development, and that's driven by if something were to happen with the property to the south. That's not something that would be in our control.
and so that's where I don't know if conversations between the resident that owns that property and the city, if there is something that can be come up with, but that's what we would be looking for, is to what options can we give these 58 residents so that they can get to the park safely and not have to cross through, and also deter them from going into that neighbor's property. And I think most people, if we give them a sidewalk or a path to do it, it should reduce people trespassing. It might not reduce 100% of them, but it provides another option, or provides a option, whereas they don't really have one today.
And just to add, I think one way of looking at it, that comment of we don't have control, but the fact that this development would be constructed has the potential to create impacts on the adjacent property. Trespassing, of course, but maybe safety issues. We don't know what kind of plants or wildlife or whatever is on that property, so that's where the effect of that development, a reasonable solution is to solve this problem with the neighbors. And I just want to add too, we have this idea of a path, but really that's a private matter unless we're going to, take it by eminent domain and the city do it. But that's really for them to negotiate, and that's really, ultimately up to the property owner if they want a path on their property.
And as for the path that you're talking about, that would go along the road there, that's a steep embankment. To put a path in there, they would have to do a lot of filling in dirt, and there's a culvert that runs through there, and as you go to the south, it gets steeper and steeper. And then it goes up there. I don't know if you can put the picture up. It shows where the greenway is, where that circle where the greenway is. That goes straight up there, and there's another culvert over there. So this would be a real problem to put any kind of path along the eastern or the western edge of our property.
Okay.
And I did talk to Dan on this last fall when we had that conversation with the trespasser on our property. And he said, and I was concerned because they added more bike path closer to our property edge.
The greenway.
The greenway. And he did say that they would make sure they put a fence so people know they cannot enter our property.
I've got no trespassing
We have
signs up there.
every 100 feet.
That's not helping.
It doesn't stop them from coming into our property. And it doesn't go anywhere. Why do they want to be in our property? The townhouses, they will want to cut through there because it actually would go somewhere, go to the park. So,
Yeah, and the city is going to follow up with Dan and you on that.
You'd almost
on
have to
that
go out
fence.
there and look at the
And walk it.
property and see how
with
steep
no
that
snow, you'd be able to
embankment-
see it.
They don't
Yeah.
even mow the south side of our driveway, or the south side of our driveway, because it's so steep that I can't get a mower on it. So, and it goes that way for quite a while before it starts to raise up again. So I don't see
Okay.
ever path being there without major. They just put that road in there. They're not gonna wanna tear it all up to put a little path in.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I'm going through our landscape plan. How do I go back to that?
Go left here.
I did something bad.
Other left.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
everything.
Exactly.
I agree with you. So if we look at this landscape plan, we have some pretty extensive planting along your edge. And
We already got trees.
We already got trees.
yeah, I know you do. And so
Through here. We don't need
what we could, I'll throw out a few options. We could work with park, or we could work with landscaping plan. I don't know how we could fit a fence in there and accommodate all the planting, but we could figure out some sort of a combination and,
Move the plants over a foot. How much does the fence take up?
well, these
wide?
are trees that will grow up. And so they're gonna be some canopy. So we can move them. And there is a possibility of a fence, but then does that answer your questions or your concerns about everything?
Well, I don't know if it does. I mean, think about it this way. I mean, it's like, this is sort of an island here, right? So you got a family of kids, and they want to go to Flint Hills. What are they going to do? Are we saying they're going to cross over Akron 50 miles per hour? Is there any kind of safety crossing there? And then go down and then cross back? Now, I think further south, going into the park, there is. But at that point, I don't think there's any kind of safe crossing. So I think we have to address that in some fashion.
My only comment to that is this isn't, at least, you know, all the time that I spent at Flint Hills, and there are people out, like you say, doing their dog training and all that stuff, but it's not a bring your 3-year-old to go down the little slide kind of park. It's athletic fields with I think they put in
There's a park.
some small park stuff for people who are there, but it's not the neighborhood, you know, have 30 or 40 kids going on a kind of, you know, going down a slides and on a jungle gym kind of park. That's, nevertheless, there still could be people coming through, but it's, in terms of traffic, it's not the kind of park that generates, like you say, that 3-year-olds going through.
It's
The same as
it's for team activities.
Exactly, the same
like
as
soccer,
other neighborhood
lacrosse.
parks do. I mean,
Yeah.
we still would have the same issue, you're right. I mean, if people want to come through, they'll jump a fence and, you know, we can't legislate people not being stupid, but.
So my question then is, if they did put in a fence all along the perimeter of their, are you asking a fence for 10 acres? All the whole side of the entire 10 acres?
I think that becomes the challenge, right? Too, is like if you put the fence along the whole thing, and then if it's only on the southern border, a fence isn't hard to walk around either. So it does, like, to what extent does that prevent people from, if I'm the westmost townhome, or even if I'm further in, I walk out to the westmost section and I go around the fence and go down,
Right.
like,
Right.
I'm going down it, so.
Have we talked to the county about a pedestrian crosswalk, any kind of safety measures there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reed, can't speak for the county, of course, but it may be deemed impractical as just to the south, you do have an underpass, a pedestrian underpass as part of that greenway already in place to get people from the east side to the west side. So I don't know what they would say, but that would be my assumption, taking a look at what currently is in place over there.
One of the things that we've done with, we've had a lot of, as these neighborhoods come in, we try and make sure that there's sidewalks and trails and things like that. This is a unique piece of property, but I do feel like we don't have much for a walkability piece from here.
No, the long-term plan is to have a trail going down the east side of Akron Avenue, which is why the county and the city are requiring the developer to grade in for a future trail, because the plan is to have a trail extending south. The only reason that the city is not requiring them to provide a paved trail is because the question of when the area to the south would develop. And it makes no sense to have just a segment of trail with nothing to connect to. But I do believe that a trail connection could be made there. Grading can always take place, and likely there would have to be, right-of-way acquisition if the width is not wide enough for what's there now currently.
So, Commissioner
Yes.
Reed, I think Commissioner Reed.
Is that, just to build on that, thank you for that, I appreciate that. Is that something that we think we could resolve if we did defer the decision on this? That we could have those discussions and come back with clarity on how that would work?
I don't believe that, I don't think that the county would have a resolution or a desire to put in a trail within the next month. I don't think it would be that quick. But I can speak to the commission and say that the plan is to have a trail going down the east side of Akron Avenue.
We heard from the owner in the south that they're saying that trail couldn't actually happen because of how it's
Right,
conditioned
they're saying that,
today.
yes.
Would you agree with that assessment then, or are you saying that, no, the trail could actually be graded in on that?
I don't think
property?
staff's equipped to, or make a on-the-fly aerial engineering determination on that. So I wouldn't want to speculate on our behalf or on the property owner's behalf either.
You have another comment, I believe, too.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit out of context because we've let the developer and the owner of the south speak, but the public hearing was closed. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think we've had lots of conversation this evening on this, a lot revolving around safety and privacy for the homeowners to the south, as well as for the residents that would be living in this development. We've had a couple options before us tonight. We can look at these motions and determine if they meet our city requirements and guidelines and move them forward or not based on that. Or we can table this and ask them to come back to review potential solutions to the safety and fence requirement and come back next month. I think before we got into some of the discussion, sounded like more of a consensus to continue it. After the discussion, where are people at?
I still feel like it's worth continuing. I think it's worth looking into the city's, the fence at the park and seeing if there were any commitments made for that. That may also change some of the controls that might be necessary or be put in place. I think it's worth carrying it over for another month.
I agree. I think there's just some details in the plan that could be worked out. So I think it's worth deferring the decision.
The townhomes are nice, by the way, if anybody has not said that. They're beautiful, so I mean, it's not a nice attribute to the neighborhood, so that, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I feel like this is in compliance with the plan, and I don't see why we wouldn't approve it. Would be my thought would be that there's nothing here that, there's nothing here that we can't approve.
Sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Whitman?
Can I ask a couple more questions of staff, just to button up some things about the compliance with the plan? Because we went off and we talked a lot about the fence issue or potential trail, that sort of thing. But just to, again, button things up. So the statement about the community meeting and not receiving notice of that, is that community meeting a required meeting?
We have been implementing it with our new zoning code with certain projects. We do have it as staff has it in our purview to require neighborhood meetings, and this was a project that we asked the developer to have a neighborhood meeting for this. So.
Are there notice requirements for that?
Yes, and to my knowledge, the developer did send those out.
Okay.
Are the notice requirements the same as our meeting, where they have to receive it 2 weeks prior, or just the?
Madam Chair, they are not. The kind of the parameters of a neighborhood meeting is for the developer to, on their own, mail out to what they feel would be a comfortable distance away, not necessarily in alignment with city public notice requirements, but to help broach the project with the impacted or adjacent neighborhoods.
Okay. Commissioner Whitman, did you have other questions?
Yes, thank you. there's some comments about, I think by the adjacent property owner about the land use designation. Perhaps they were under some different assumptions when they purchased the property, but how long has this land use designation underlying this development been in place?
I mean,
we
this
know?
was in place with our 2040 comprehensive plan, which was adopted by the city and was open to the public for public comment back in 2019. So with that adoption back during that process in 2017, 2018, it was notified to the city and public comment for any questions or any concerns with what was to be adopted was available for the public. But as of our 2040 comprehensive plan, this is what the land use designation was designated for this site.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And there, I saw in the staff report that there's mention of some other recent rezoning to R2 in Autumn Terrace and, is it Andrea Place?
Arden Place?
Arden Place,
Yes,
sorry.
correct.
Sorry, I can't
Yep.
read my own handwriting.
Yep, those areas are, you can kind of see them. It's directly west of the new elementary school, south of Bon Air. That area to the west, you can kind of see it outlined. Those townhomes over there, or those twin townhomes over there also have 6 units per building, and that was rezoned to R2.
Okay, and that's the same, it would be the same kind of rezoning
similar.
that would be occurring here, okay. And is there any reason you think that this should be treated any differently?
I don't believe so. It follows regulations of our code and meets the density requirements, 6 units per acre, which that's that max for the low-density residential land use designation, and it follows that, so.
Okay, great. And finally, I don't know if you had mentioned, but we had received this letter from Trevor Popkin, which I always think it's helpful if people want to submit written comments. We do read them, and it is helpful to do that, so appreciate that. There's some concerns in there about like varying intensities among the adjacent, properties. Is there any concern by staff about that this is R2, where maybe some adjacent properties are lower intensity?
Staff doesn't believe so. Again, it follows under that low-density residential land use designation, that R2 zoning is an allowed use under that, and follows the housing type that's allowed within that low-density residential land use designation, so.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I just wanted to button those up, like I said, just because those were the only kind of questions I had, but I agree. I mean, I'm for more housing. So if a project meets the requirements of the zoning code, then I'm going to be leaning toward approving that project. Here, my only concern is with that fence and potential resolution, solving those problems that we discussed. So I would be in support of what Commissioner Bugay stated to begin our discussion at the end here.
And so with that, someone want to make a motion on how we want to move forward?
I make a motion to recommend that we continue this issue until
The February 25th
February 25th?
meeting, yep. If that's the meeting you're looking for, that's our
That's
next
the
meeting.
name I'm looking for, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's been a motion by Commissioner Reed to continue this item to our February 25th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reed, seconded by Commissioner Bugay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. And so just to recap, what we would like to hear back on February 25th is an update on the fence, and commissioners, please chime in if I don't get all the things we want to hear back. An update on the fence from the athletic complex south of the residential property, and then options for a fence or trail or something from the property on the north, buffering the property to the south.
Yeah, I would say essentially just mitigating any type of trespassing, some sort of plan to mitigate trespassing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff will take those comments back and meet with the developer.
Thank you. Our next item this evening is a request by Northwind Test LLC for preliminary and final plat approval and rezoning of 60 acres from A2 to B2. And I will turn it over to Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The requests before the commission tonight are preliminary steps in the approval process prior to a formal site plan review or other necessary approvals or actions that would be required ahead of any development of the site. As you said, the requests are for plat approval to subdivide the parcel from the greater Umore Park development area, as well as create 2 new parcels within the plat area, as well as provide some right-of-way for a future east-west roadway. And in addition to the plat request is a rezoning by the applicant, Northwind Test LLC. Again, a summary there. The request for rezoning would be from the current A2 agriculture to B2 employment. This request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan in that part of the city. And then as well as the request for preliminary and final plat approval. The parcels created by that plat meet the lot standards for the B2 employment district. As I said, staff would be anticipating additional submittal, likely a planned unit development at minimum to allow for multiple buildings on a single parcel, as well as a final site and building plan in which various things like building height, setbacks, etc., would be reviewed by the commission. So the site itself is 60 acres in area. It's located immediately south of Meta's data center project, west of Blaine Avenue in the eastern portion of the Umore Park area as shown here. On this map, you can see Blaine Avenue running north-south immediately along the east boundary of the subject property. County Road 42 is up here where the cursor is showing. And then the Akron 42 intersection is north and west of that site. You can also see some of Amber Fields and their preliminary grading and road work occurring west of that site as well. As I said, the site, the rezoning request is in conformance or consistent with the city's land use plan. As shown before you here, outlined in red, the Planning Commission and City Council recently adopted an amendment to bring this area into the MUSA boundary to allow for development. The proposed rezoning, again, would be from agriculture to B2 employment, as shown there with the magenta color. And then here's the subject, or the proposed plat. As I said, there'd be 2 parcels, 1 large buildable lot and 1 outlot here, as well as a future 151st Street. That outlot would be the site of a future substation. And speaking with the applicant, they may wish to make that just a buildable lot prior to going to council. So that is one change that may be occurring. But the boundaries of those parcels would remain the same, and that outlot is in conformance with the lot standards of the code as it is currently drawn. And then here's a really preliminary site plan showing what the potential layout may be. Again, the formal final site plan will be forthcoming, but to give you an idea of the various buildings, including some University of Minnesota presence on the site, but that is kind of the general layout. I don't want to belabor it too much as it may change going forward prior to submittal of a final site and building plan. So it's a big and very important project coming forward, although this step is pretty straightforward as far as the requests before the commission tonight. The plat, as I said, meets the lot standards dimensionally for the B2 employment zoning district, and the requested rezoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of these requests. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here with their representatives. They have a short PowerPoint if the commission would like to hear them speak on their project themselves as well.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions from the commission for Anthony?
Yeah, Anthony, just, can you help me understand, I was confused about what's going to happen with 152nd, because that goes through the lot here, and I know, south of 152nd there's a number of, I think, the U buildings. One of them is used like by our AAA or something for storage. It seems like they'd eliminate that road there. Is there any?
Sure.
Yeah.
Certainly, Madam Chair, Commissioner Reed. These roadways within the Umore Park area, while they did have street names on them on Google Maps and things like that, they're not official roadways and they're not designed to city standards. That roadway will be removed and it will be replaced with a new 151st Street that'll be located on the northern portion of the site. So these buildings will go away, as well as this roadway here that is owned by the university. So I'll just show you on the site plan the new alignment here. This will be a temporary cul-de-sac that will eventually, as development occurs to the west, extend to provide that east-west connection.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for Anthony at this time? Anthony, one question that I'll just ask, but we kind of talked about it earlier. There was a traffic study included with this application and some recommendations. Can you just speak to if those recommendations are based on this project or if those are all based on the development as a whole that's going on in the area?
Sure. So as the commission is aware, there is a tremendous amount of development occurring in the city, and particularly in this part of the city. With the increased traffic by Meta's data center project, potential traffic created by construction and ongoing operations of this site, the Dakota County Transportation Department had requested a traffic impact analysis. So it is one piece of the larger puzzle, looking directly at this project itself within the context of the development occurring in the Blaine Avenue, County Road 42 vicinity.
Thank you.
Yeah, one other, not so much, I guess, a question as a point, but I know there's been a lot of discussions and planning around the deed cleanup. That has no bearing on these decisions, right? That is separate, that is happening in parallel, and anything that would relate to that, conditions or anything, would come up later as part of the PUD. This decision is independent of all those activities, correct?
So I would definitely defer to the applicant and the property owner on those sorts of issues. Typically, that would be something that would be buttoned down ahead of any sale and whatnot, the responsibilities and things like that.
Yeah.
So I would defer to the property owner and the applicant for that question.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Anthony? Thank you, Anthony. Yes.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
waiting for you.
This item is a public hearing item, so at this time, we will open up the public hearing. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak may do so at this time, coming to the podium, stating your name and address for the record. And we would invite the applicant to come forward if they want to kick off the public hearing tonight. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you to the Planning Commission for having us. We're excited about our project, Minnesota Aerospace Complex, so I wanted to give you just a little overview of the company, Northwind. I'm David Meyer, 358 East Fillmore Avenue in St. Paul. That's our headquarters.
Thank you.
We were founded in 1952. We're actually a spin-off of the University of Minnesota. The university operated the Rosemont Aeronautical Lab here from 1946 to 1962, and our founders came from that aeronautical lab. We've been operating test facilities in Plymouth, Minnesota since 1960. So we have a smaller site there where we operate some smaller facilities. So we've been designing and building facilities across the U.S. What you see in the picture is actually a facility we built for Boeing out in Seattle. So we do work From applied R&D, we design and build test facilities, and we also operate the test facilities and provide test services to our customers. We also do flight testing as well. So kind of the whole full life cycle of an aerospace vehicle development program. So our vision for the Minnesota Aerospace Complex on this 60-acre site, we want to do research, development, and testing. And we want this to be kind of the latest and greatest, a premier aerospace testing complex site. We see this creating jobs, creating other businesses around us. It's going to be a pipeline for educational industrial skill base. We will be independently operating this. So test facilities last a long time. The facility we built in Plymouth was built in 1960, and we're still operating those facilities today. We envisioned we'd be doing the same thing here. We'd operate them for, the next 50 to 100 years. We are excited. We're partnered with the University of Minnesota, the College of Science and Engineering. They will be bringing the modeling and simulation piece of this. We'll be designing and building the test facilities and operating them. So it's a true partnership. It brings the skill sets of the Minnesota companies and the university together. So again, we're really excited. We think this is needed for our nation as we need more ground testing and modeling and simulation for future aerospace vehicle development. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Leslie Krieger, and I am the Assistant Vice President for Planning, Space, and Real Estate at the University of Minnesota. My address is 319 15th Avenue, Southeast Minneapolis. And I'm pleased here to speak on behalf of the property owner, the Regents of the University of Minnesota, in support of this project, the rezoning as well as the preliminary plat, recognizing that we will be back for future Planning Commission approvals. As the Planning Commission is aware, that Umore Park was during World War II established by the federal government to construct and operate a smokeless gunpowder production facility across thousands of acres in Dakota County. And following the war, the university acquired this property and used it for research purposes as well as agricultural production. As those of you who are familiar with the area know, that many of the buildings, foundations, and environmental conditions associated with the World War II site remain. And unlike other recent sales in Umore Park, including Maplewood, Meta, and the recent sale to the school district for their new middle school, this is the first site, to answer your questions, this is the first site identified for development that includes an area of environmental concern. And so unlike those other sites that did not have any known environmental conditions, this site does have an area of environmental concern associated with it. And Northwind and the university are working together under the supervision of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to ensure that the environmental conditions are remediated in compliance with MPCA standards. As you may recall, the university has been very transparent about the environmental conditions associated with all of Umore Park. We have our online document repository in which all testing that we've been doing over the last 20 years is online and access to the public. We've shared all of that information with Northwind, and we're working very closely with their consultants to support their investigation and remediation efforts long-term. And this will serve, this being this first development project that is in an area where there's complex environmental conditions, this will serve as a model for future efforts and development in the area. Also noted that the development of this site will also extend the public infrastructure farther. Blaine will go farther south, as well as that new roadway of 151st Street to the west, with the long-term goal of extending that all the way over to Audrey, in compliance and in accordance with Rosemount's AUAR associated with the site. And as Mr. Meyer noted, that we do have this unique research relationship with Northwind that goes back decades. The actual aerospace lab that was operated by the university from 1946 to 1962 was actually just to the east of this site across Blaine. And in fact, some of the the aerospace department's operations, where they use some of the buildings that are actually part of this 60-acre site as part of those original operations. So we're coming full circle in terms of from an aerospace engineering standpoint, and are really pleased that we will have a presence at this site and have this unique research relationship. And so with that, I can answer any questions. We really thank the Planning Commission and city staff for all of your work in terms of helping us facilitate future development at Umore Park in compliance with the city's land use plan.
Thank you, Leslie. Are there any follow-up questions for Leslie this time? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hope you're all enjoying the warm weather, because I know it's getting cold again. My name is Donald Mullen. I am the Executive Secretary at the St. Paul Building and Construction Trades Council, 353 West 7th Street, St. Paul. I'm here to speak in support of this project tonight, but more importantly, I just was thinking about this as I've been listening to both of this. What an amazing opportunity, not only to continue to bring technology to the community, but also to take a site that maybe needs a little bit of cleanup and repurpose it and allow it to do some great things and bring a lot of more education to the community. So I'm going to be short and sweet. I'm just going to say I really would appreciate your support for this project tonight. It's going to be a really good one, and thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Amanda Taylor. I live at 1805 Stanford Avenue, St. Paul. I am here on behalf of Greater MSP, the Regional Economic Development Partnership for the Minneapolis-St. Paul region. We are the Regional Economic Development Partnership, and we partner with thousands of individuals and hundreds of organizations across the region working together to accelerate economic competitiveness. We work in partnership with cities, counties, the state, academic institutions, development partners, and employers to support projects that create good jobs and that make investments that will contribute to property tax revenue, leading to greater economic opportunity and quality of life in the communities in our region. The City of Rosemont has been a close and important partner to Greater MSP, and we have worked together for many years to advance economic opportunity in the city and for the city's residents. We are here tonight in support of the Northwind rezoning because it will enable the kind of economic opportunity and investment that we have been working so intently to advance together. We are excited about development of land within the Umore Park, many of the reasons that you just heard from other speakers, and because it represents opportunities for us to partner with the city, to partner with the University of Minnesota on projects that have unique value to the region. This project advances our region's leadership in innovation, technology, and research and development. It will be the country's premier aerospace testing complex, providing critical infrastructure to our nation's aerospace industry. It will be an asset that we can develop a broader economic development strategy around that will attract more companies, creating more jobs and more investment in our region. The university's high-speed computing capabilities that will co-locate with Northwind will also be a very competitive asset, and we will position that and build Minnesota's leadership in this space. I thank you for your consideration. Thank you to the Planning Commission for comments tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I don't have any follow-up questions, but I think it's a very exciting project. It's a great project. Excited to have it come to Rosemont. Excited to have it come to the University Umore land, and on that area that will start the cleanup process. So very exciting to see it come forward. Anyone else have questions or comments?
Well, I agree, it's great, and I love, I mean, the project in itself is awesome, it's going to be a big win for Rosemont, but I love the fact it's one of these enabling things, and some of the funding that's coming in and collaborating on that cleanup is really awesome, seeing that happen.
Took the pretty picture away. That was so exciting.
Sorry.
I have a personal excitement about this. My son went to the U of M, and he graduated as an aerospace engineer. So this is exciting. Maybe he'll buy my house in Rosemont in a few years when I retire. But no, this is very exciting. And to bring that to Rosemont when we have the Honeywells and the Raytheons, and, you know, they take our students and young engineers out of the state for jobs, so this is exciting.
I only had one question, and that was just in regards to, like, with testing and things, like, I heard that it's all ground-based, but, like, is there ever, like, large objects traveling on our roads for testing, whether it be parts of a plane or helicopter or whatever it is for that kind of stuff?
So again, most of the testing is done with scale models. So the models are stuff that we would design and build, and they're tested in a test section. 2 of the tunnels are 4 by 4 foot, so it's a model that would fit within that.
Okay.
The other facility is an 8 foot, and there would be a little bit larger scale, but again, those may come in on trucks, but again, they're still not very large.
Okay.
Yep.
And just to piggyback off of that, just to confirm, all the testing is indoors?
Indoors.
No loud noise, no booms, no nothing?
No, everything we do will, have acoustic attenuation when we exhaust air and things like that.
And you can continue, you're already doing this in Plymouth?
Yeah, yeah, we've been doing this in Plymouth, and we hosted the city council and the mayor to, come see how close we are to residential areas and other light industrial. We've been a good neighbor there since 1960.
And will you continue to have that facility
Yes,
there too
yeah,
as well?
we'll have both.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for the applicant while he's here? Yes, Commissioner Whitman?
Yeah, I mean, I just echo it, really exciting. I really appreciate the presentations.
Yeah.
I appreciate all comments, positive and negative, but it's really refreshing to get a lot of supportive comments from projects, and it'd be nice to see more of those with projects.
Great.
We often deal with
Yeah.
with some of the contentiousness, but
Oh, yeah.
the love's in the air. We feel that. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move forward? Okay. Do we have a motion this evening?
Motion to recommend City Council approve a rezoning of the subject parcel from A2 agriculture to B2 employment.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reed, seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to recommend City Council approve the Northwind Edition preliminary and final plat, subject to the following conditions, numbered 1 through 6.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reed, seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This motion will move forward, I forgot this on the Steiner one, this motion will move forward to City Council at their February 18th meeting. And for anyone watching at home, the request by Steininger for their mineral extraction renewal will also move forward to City Council on February 18th. Or also for those in the audience, but I think most of you probably don't care about that one. Okay, any new business this evening?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, any discussion items from staff?
Just a quick reminder, our March meeting, I know it's January, but our March meeting will be a week earlier to accommodate the Rosemount School District's spring break.
And
I believe it's on St. Patrick's Day,
the
right?
17th. I was like, I think I wrote it down correctly. Let me just double check.
Which is a Monday, I believe.
It is a Monday, so it is the third Monday, Monday the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. We can all wear green. So our next meeting is February 25th. Then we have March 17th, that Monday, and then April 22nd. And I did share with staff, but I will not be here on the April 22nd meeting. Anything else from the commissioners or staff? Okay, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned.